This video is brought to you by Incogni. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. All right, today I want to talk about a paradigm shift in video games happening over the past number of years, in which the industry has evolved to a point where instead of you playing games, the games play you. First off, let me try a bit of a demonstration for this. Pick a number, any number at all. Once you have it, go ahead and multiply that number by 3. Feel free to pause the video at any point. Yes, there is math involved in this. When finished multiplying it by 3, I want you to add 6. Pretty simple, right? And then I want you to divide this new number by 3 again. Just to be sure, I have all the steps on screen right now, and you should have, sequentially, picked a number, multiplied it by 3, added 6 to the answer that you got, then divided this new total by 3, with a final step of subtracting the original number that you chose from the beginning, whatever it was, leaving you with an ultimate answer, which is based on whatever you originally picked. The answer that you have is 2. You chose a number, whatever number you wanted, but I can predict your answer because your choice never mattered, and the outcome was always predetermined. Real quick, if anyone didn't get the number 2 as an answer here, you're wrong. Not me. You made a mistake. This is what's called a magician's force, and it's a trick involving mathematics where the steps in order sequentially will always result in the number 2, because you're adding 6, then dividing it by 3, where multiplication and division cancel each other out. Another example, a much more simplified example for anyone who didn't want to do all of that, is if I put 2 cards face down on a table and then ask you to choose one. If you choose left, I say take the left card, and if you choose right, I then take the card on the right, saying, okay, you chose mine, now take the card on the left. I did somewhat give you a choice, technically speaking, but you didn't really choose anything that affected the outcome. The same thing is now true in modern multiplayer video games, where people can be playing a first-person shooter or a competitive sports game, therefore making a multitude of choices in the process of that, but those choices don't matter, and the outcome is predetermined. That is my premise for today, and that is what I mean when I say games are playing you, not the other way around. Here's the part where I have to play a clip for context. I've talked about a lot of these things before in separate videos, but collectively analyzing them here requires a bit more depth, and this is Mark Rubin, executive game director and producer at Ubisoft, giving an explanation for why X-Defiant, a recent FPS title released by Ubisoft San Francisco, doesn't use skill-based matchmaking, or as he calls it, engagement-based matchmaking.
Okay, so skill-based matchmaking, also known as oftenly as SBMMM, basically where the game decides that you have a certain skill level after it kind of watches you play for a few matches, and then matches you up with people who are equivalent on your skill level. Now, in the olden days, it was pretty light and didn't really intrude too much into the game. It has become something that is more what they call actually engagement-based matchmaking now, where it sort of is like an AI that's monitoring your behavior and going, okay, this person's getting beaten too many times and we think they might quit, so we're going to make the game easier for them, and then you'll get a game where you win, and then it'll bring you back to the playing against the same people you were playing before. And the thing with all that, besides the whole sort of morality of it, is that I think it creates a stale experience, right? Like you keep playing against the same exact people, not the same exact people specifically, but the same exact type of player. You lose out on all the fun variety that I think a lot of the old school shooters had.
Straight off rip, that already proved my point kind of completely. This is the former executive producer at Infinity Ward, for a decade, mind you, who is responsible for some of the best overall entries in the Call of Duty franchise, who now works at an executive level inside Ubisoft, so he is absolutely qualified to speak on this and has intimate knowledge of how it all works. But for anyone who came here expecting a lot more depth, I've got you covered. This is a research study conducted with internal data from Electronic Arts that incorporates roughly 37 million matches and 1.7 million unique players. The subject is EOMM, Engagement Optimized Matchmaking, which is an evolution of skill-based matchmaking, exactly as Mark Rubin just outlined. In that paper, we can see, quote, EOMM provides a measurable and flexible matchmaking framework. It has well-defined quantitative objectives that can be monitored, evaluated, and improved. Within the EOMM framework, the core building components, skill model, churn model, and graph pairing model are uncoupled so that they can be tuned and replaced independently. Moreover, we can even change the objective function to other core game metrics of interest, such as playtime, retention, or spending. EOMM allows one to easily plug in different types of predictive models to achieve the optimization, end quote. Further down, and much more relevant for a later part of the video, quote, so far we have discussed EOMM in 1 versus 1 game scenarios. This framework also applies to PvP games that involve teams of players, where every component needs to be extended with additional care. The skill model can be simply applied to a team by adding up skills for all team members, end quote. Simplified here, matchmaking used to be a system, or mechanism, where you played against random other people. Then it became a targeted system where you would play against people of your same relative skill level. And more recently, it has become a system that is intentionally flexible so as to increase relative player spending and retention. Hopefully we can see why that's a bit of a problem. Before going further, today's video is brought to you by Incogni. Incogni is all about online privacy and data protection. That's actually been one of my hobbies lately, owing to how important protecting your data is in a modern digital world, increasingly so. Every single day, your data is at risk of being sold by third-party brokers or accessed without your knowledge in data breaches. Some people don't care, but they should care. The number of identity theft victims has gone up over 41% since 2021. And for anyone who wants to prevent that kind of thing, Incogni can help. Your personal information is absolutely everywhere now, and not just in the archives of companies you know about or signed up for on purpose, but other data firms as well, who then sell it all across the internet. For everyday users, it's a nearly impossible task to take any action at all because there are hundreds of these data brokers, and it's a lengthy process to contact them, fight objections, and get something removed. However, Incogni does all of this for you quickly and easily. The process is incredibly simple. Sign up for the website, give them specific legal permission to work on your behalf, and let them know what kind of information they'll be having removed. After that, sit back and just watch them work. Aggregating this kind of service lets them do what would otherwise be an all-consuming and nearly impossible task for individuals, which is why so many people have so much information online that they never even know about. Using the link down below in the description and code Echelon at checkout, you'll get 60% off an annual subscription to Incogni. I could go into a lot more depth on this. The services they offer and the value they provide is quite large, considering, but for the sake of time, I have to keep it trimmed. Again, link down below and promo code Echelon for 60% off your subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. Back on task. As bad as that is, it's honestly nothing compared to some of the tactics available, so let's make a pivot here and jump over to this. This is a patent held by Activision Blizzard titled System and Method for Driving Microtransactions in Multiplayer Video Games. And all the way down on page 13, quote, according to an aspect of the invention, microtransaction engine may arrange matches to influence game-related purchases. And further down, for example, microtransaction engine may match a more expert/marquee or otherwise influential player, e.g. clan leader, with a junior player to encourage the junior player to make game-related purchases. A junior player may wish to emulate a marquee player by obtaining weapons or other items used by the marquee player. Other types of pairings and or other groupings of players may be used as well. That is a very clear indication of what is happening, but for anyone who wants me to spell it out for them, the game can match players together, expert and junior, with the sole intention of causing those with a lower relative skill level to buy microtransactions, thereby totally destroying the integrity of a skill-based hierarchy, because fairness of competition is no longer the primary directive. You may subjectively believe that the choices you make in any given match somehow matter, but you also might just be someone with an adequate skill level to where you and your teammates combined, as per the research from Electronic Arts data, are very likely going to lose that particular match, simply as a mechanism to spur one of your teammates to buy loot boxes, or to serve as cannon fodder, as per the discussion with Mark Rubin, for opponents who are likely to quit if they lose another match. As bad as all of that is, it is nothing compared to our next example here, which yet again comes from Activision Blizzard. This time, it's a patent called Methods and Systems for Incentivizing Team Cooperation in Multiplayer Gaming Environments, which sounds innocent enough, until you read page 7 of the text portion and find this. Quote, Figure B illustrates a table providing an exemplary list of parameters of a gameplay session that are modified based on a player's skill level and the corresponding experience for players of different skill levels. For example, in a first shooter gaming environment, when a first player aims his weapon at a target, a parameter defining the tolerance for how accurate the player's aim must be to hit the target is modified based on the acquired skill level of the player. The computer assigns the tolerance for how accurate the player's aim must be to hit the target differently based on the skill level of the first player. A player having a higher skill level will be assigned a lower tolerance parameter and therefore will have to be more accurate in aiming in order to hit the target. A player having a lower skill level be assigned a higher tolerance parameter and therefore could be less accurate in aiming in order to hit the target. As shown, column 310 of table 1 lists modifiable parameters such as degree of accuracy required to hit a target. Column 312 lists the experience of a player having a high skill level, which may be high degree of accuracy required. Column 314 lists experience of a player having a medium skill level, which may be medium degree of accuracy required. And column 316 lists the experience of a player having a low skill level, which may be low degree of accuracy required. End quote. Yeah, see, haha. Scrolling up to table 1, we can see what kinds of systems the game will change, with big air quotes there, based on the subjective skill level of a player, which include, but are not limited to, degree of accuracy required to hit the target, likelihood of being targeted by an enemy, which means it can kill you whenever it wants to, difficulty of an in-game puzzle, bonus chance of finding powerful treasure, number of challenging enemies in a single encounter, gold earned multiplier, and friendly fire damage amount to teammates. On top of this, column 318 lists equipment selection or accuracy of enemy attacks, which can be modified so that enemy attacks never miss the player, and further clarifies that these systems can be changed in a multitude of ways based on the subjectively determined skill level of a player so that they will play for a longer period of time or purchase more in-game items. Let's put everything together now. Multiplayer competitive games no longer exist in a state of meritocracy. They match players based on engagement above all else, and as per the statements of Mark Rubin, a multi-decade gaming industry executive at different companies who worked on numerous AAA FPS titles, including Call of Duty, the AI will give out wins if it thinks you might be on the verge of quitting. Multiplayer games in general can modify almost any aspect of the core gameplay loop, including how accurate you are, how many enemies target you, or what level of rewards you can get, with the explicit goal of making you 1. Stay online, and 2. Purchase more microtransactions, which reverses the paradigm of player choice, culminating in an industry where you no longer play games. Games play you. The same way I can give you a series of questions that seem like choices and force you to end up with a certain particular number, modern video games can give you a series of matches that keep you in the exact same ranked bracket for whatever game it is. They do this to maintain paying customers, they do it to maximize in-game session time, and they can restructure the very fabric of the game itself on a whim to push you in whatever direction is most valuable to them. You aren't playing games with consistent rules. You are playing inside a virtual world that changes itself in order to control outcomes, and they have perfected that type of system for years at the expense of all players involved, while most of them don't even know what's happening in the first place. Think about it. For every winner, there's a loser. And if an AI determines that you are, let's say, less likely to quit, or you're just a more patient than average player, I don't know, like you're mature and grown up and patient, it can therefore match you with a team and against a team as well, where the outcome is predetermined based on relative skill, which is a perfect example of the game playing you. Round start, you feel good, it's a fresh match, anything can happen. But in reality, that's just not true, because the game put you there to lose so that someone else on the other team would stay online longer. That is the reality of online games. Anyway, I thought it was a really interesting topic and worthy of a video, but that's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. There's a special VPN deal and the video sponsor, of course, Locals and Patreon for monthly memberships. That's one of the best ways to support by far, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.